There's no easy way to say this. Someone with type 1 diabetes died from a low blood sugar or a hypoglycemia event. It's hard to talk about, but it needs to be talked about. And the scariest thing is that this person, along with many others in similar circumstances, had all the fancy bells and whistles, the CGM, the algorithms, the alerts. And it's important that I think we take some time to consider the reality of type 1, not just the threats that it poses, but the unique perspective that it gives us as well. Now, today's episode is going to be a little different, obviously, and I want to be respectful both of the individuals, lots of people, but also the topic at hand, as it is more sensitive. So if this is something that you don't think you're ready to hear, this might be an episode you come back to later. But I think that it's going to be helpful for many people, as it was for me to have this discussion in one of our client coaching calls, for a number of reasons. And if you make it to the end of the episode, which I believe many of you will, there's something I want to share from my own personal life that you may find interesting, may not have known. So today we're going to get into actually a Facebook Live that I did for our free community. And if you're interested in checking that out, we've got over 7,000 people in there already. It's totally free to join. I'll put a link in the description for you. But I did a live training for them and a bit spontaneously decided to open up this conversation. And a number of people commented saying this needed to be said and they appreciated it. So I thought I'd make it into an episode here as well. So I hope you enjoy. If you find this helpful or think that it needs to be shared, please do. And please be respectful if you decide to comment. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'd love to see the comment section expand. Without any further ado, we'll get into our theme song, which is a bit upbeat for this topic, but forgive me, it's the theme song. And then we'll hop into our training today.
I've spent the last 10 years pushing the limits while identifying trends and patterns in my type 1 diabetes management. Follow along as I learn, apply, and share the fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle strategies that I've learned from diabetes experts around the world. The real question is, how can we live fearlessly with diabetes while maintaining stable blood sugars? This podcast is here to give you the answer. My name is Matt Vandevecht, head coach and co-founder of FTF Warrior, and welcome to Pardon My Pancreas.
Today, I want to talk about something really close to my heart, the reality of the threat type 1 diabetes poses to our lives. And it's something that's scary to talk about, but I think it's important that we all recognize the very real threat that type 1 diabetes can pose. And yes, I am walking right now. My blood sugars are high, and that's the reality on the other side of the equation of today's discussion. But last night on my coaching call with my private clients, one of my clients actually shared something that was really difficult to hear, but important to hear. And that was that through some conversations they were having with a medical professional, learned that this medical professional had a patient who had passed away from type 1 diabetes. And unfortunately, well, it's unfortunate either way, but this unique experience was one of a low blood sugar, and they passed away from a low. And in the call, we went from laughing, happy times, good questions, discussion about blood sugar formulas, to everyone just kind of, whoa, right? Like just a serious note. And it was really important for us to have that moment. And the reason I think it's so important is twofold. One, I think that, at least for me, a lot of people forget the real threat that can exist with type 1 diabetes. Like, yes, we have insulin, we have pumps that help a lot. We have all this technology with alerts and alarms and all this stuff, but there is still a very real threat. So I've got something in my eye. There we go. One of my hairs. There's still a very real threat that type 1 diabetes poses, where especially if you don't have blood sugar formulas set up, but even if you do, there are still errors that can be made, right? There are still very real threats of unpredictability. And we sent an email out recently with something similar. It wasn't this story, but it was something similar. And I had a client tell me that their endo had shared that the only predictable part of diabetes is that it is unpredictable. And I disagree with that statement as a whole, but parts of it I do agree with. So number one, I think that a lot of us overlook the reality of the threat that type 1 can pose. And I don't say this to be a scare tactic or fear mongering. I think that many of us are living amazing lives with type 1 diabetes. But the second part of it, outside of just recognizing the very real threat that type 1 can pose, is a completely opposite perspective that I had when my client was talking about this person who is no longer with us. And I want to say this respectfully, because I know that there are some people who actually know others who have ceased to exist, right, because of type 1. And that perspective that I had in that moment that I shared with my clients is that diabetes actually gives us added value of life because we understand how fragile it truly is. We understand that at any moment things could go south, both with our blood sugars, but also with our life, right? That type 1 diabetes can take us out, and it has taken people out. And I think that that realization gives us such a boost in understanding of how precious life is and how we should take every moment and treasure it, right? And no one's going to do that, right? Because we all get stressed out in life. We forget how important these things are. But it's critical that we do take time to enjoy the moments that we have, right? And today it's a little different. I get that. But this was on my heart, and I think this is really important to share because more importantly, most of us forget how big of a threat type 1 diabetes can be if we were to play the ignorant game, right? If I stopped checking my blood sugars, if I stopped using my blood sugar formulas and just went to go do an Ironman, I'd probably die. And I'm being absolutely serious. Those events are insane. I talk about my training, right? And I've got this one here from my last half Ironman. And that was a blast. I was 96% time in range while doing insane endurance events for 7 hours straight. And 96% time in range. Woohoo, that's cool. But if I was not on top of my blood sugars, guaranteed, I would have been hauled off in an ambulance if I made it, right? Because type 1 diabetes is so volatile. And there are so many factors that influence our blood sugars that if we are not on top of it, we're basically accepting death, or we're running our blood sugars high and probably going to develop some issues later on, right? So today's discussion is very different. It's not inspirational. It's not meant to educate. It's sharing the reality of diabetes that one of my clients gifted me last night. So number one, remembering that the things that I'm doing right now, training for these ridiculous endurance events that most non-diabetics can't even do, that, as much as I hate to admit it, is very dangerous for me, right? But day to day, even if I wasn't choosing to do those dangerous events, living with type 1 diabetes is dangerous inherently. And we need to be on top of it. We need to take it seriously. And there's so many people that are ignorant of this fact, and they are playing with death. And they don't even know it. And that's terrifying to me, that there are people out there that might not be here tomorrow because of their ignorance. Or they don't care, right? Oh, I'll be fine. I just won't pay attention. That used to be me. That's probably why I'm getting fired up, because I almost died a few times. And I still didn't care. That's crazy. I'm so grateful to God that I'm still alive, still here with you guys today. But the second one, and this is one that I need to practice more, is gratitude, is recognizing the beauty in life, taking time to participate in things, not letting diabetes hold us back, because we might not get tomorrow, right? The person who is no longer with us, they had the fancy technology. They had all the gizmos and gadgets. They had the alerts, the alarms, the algorithms, and it still wasn't enough. This is very much an impromptu presentation, but I want you to understand that you need to take this seriously, but that you also can't take life too seriously. Those need to exist together. Take your diabetes seriously. Do not take for granted what we've gained in controlled blood sugars. And don't take life too seriously. Take time to goof off, to make memories. For me, spending time with my family, right? Don't let diabetes hold you back from making memories, because we've been given the gift of life with insulin. We get to live now. Diabetes is no longer a death sentence upon diagnosis, but if we don't take it seriously, it can still be a death sentence. So I'm going to keep this one short. I feel like I'm going to get too fired up if I go down this conversational path, but I wanted to share this with you guys in hopes that it lights something inside of you, lights you up. One of those two things, or maybe it's both. Take it more seriously, because this thing can be very dangerous for all of us, myself included, right? I'm not exempt from this just because, that's always above 90% time in range. What if that 10% was an urgent low, right? I recognize this could still take me out as well, okay? And that should help you to see how precious life is. That you shouldn't let diabetes hold you back from living your best life while paying attention to it, while taking diabetes seriously. All right? Whew. That's all I got for you today. Just a quick one to let you guys know that I'm in this with you, and I think that it's critical we understand both sides of that conversation as we live our life to the fullest. Let's do. Okay, cool. Treadmill's working. I'm no longer high. I'm crashing. So use the strategies that I share with you guys to live your best life, but please respect the rules of diabetes. And as always, I want you to know that you can keep up the fight and that you're stronger together with the rest of us. The more you reach out when you need help, the less burnout you'll experience. The more controlled your blood sugars are, the less burnout you'll experience. I hope this one was helpful to the right people. But thanks for hanging out with me today. Of course, I'll catch you guys next week. But man, it was a hard conversation to have last night, but an important one, just as it is today. This is not a fun conversation, but I think it's important that a lot of people hear this one. And I hope it reached the right people. So on a happy note, you can live a great life with diabetes. Go crush it. Go have fun. Don't let it hold you back. Let me know if I can help with anything. I mean that. Thanks for hanging out, guys. I'll catch you next week. Promise it'll be happier, more informational, educational, inspirational, and I hope you have a great week ahead with some stable blood sugars as well. So a bit of a heavier episode today, but I hope you found it useful. And one of the phrases that stood out to me as I was talking about that topic was to take type 1 diabetes seriously without taking life too seriously, to actually enjoy it for every moment that we're blessed with, right? That we get to experience life. And I think a lot of times we can get lost in the dark depression, of having type 1 diabetes and how it's not fair. But the reality is life isn't fair. And if you expect it to be, you're going to have a really hard time getting along. So it's best to just understand that nothing is fair. It was never meant to be fair. And, everyone's got their stuff, just like we have this invisible illness that most people don't even know we deal with, right? There's probably stuff that other people are dealing with that we don't know about as well. So I think it's best that we stay in our own lane, focus on ourselves, and do our best to make improvements in our own lives as a result. So I hope this was helpful for you. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments if you're here on YouTube with us. Obviously, if you're looking to get the most out of life with type 1 diabetes, to take type 1 diabetes seriously and to respect the rules that it does bring, but also to not take life too seriously, to actually enjoy it with type 1 diabetes. That's all we talk about, right? The blend or the crossover of happy and healthy, how to live your best life, but also be healthy. So if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button, the follow button, wherever you're watching this, share it with somebody else. that is literally what these channels that we have are built for. So really hope you stick around and watch some other videos, listen to some other episodes. Hope this was helpful for you. And I told you if you stuck around to the end, I'd share a piece of my own story. And that is a raw, unfiltered message. As of 5 days ago, I've signed up to participate in a full distance Ironman race. I've never done it before. I just completed my first half Ironman, which was just over 70 miles. And the full distance Ironman is 140 miles, 140.6 technically. I have less than 6 months to train for it, which is not ideal nor recommended. And as a type 1 diabetic, there are significant threats that participating in an event like this pose. And I have to be extremely cautious and calculated and mindful and aware. And I recognize that this will be an immense challenge, not just for me going through the event itself, but also in the preparation of the event as I continue to pursue things that I never thought were possible. And I'm excited, but also nervous. If I'm being completely transparent, I am nervous. And especially after having this discussion with my clients and just for being reminded that type 1 diabetes needs to be respected, that it is something that, technically speaking, could kill me. And if not paid attention to, it could easily be the thing that wipes me out. And even if I'm paying attention, it could still be the thing that wipes me out. I could be extremely well controlled and just have an off day. And that hit me as I realized what I am stepping into, and in recognizing that it is something that must be taken seriously. And my wife brought this up to me as well. It was a bit of a serious discussion of, as morbid as this sounds, getting our will set up and making sure that if something does happen, our finances are okay, that Brooklyn's okay, that all of those things are in order. And it's such an interesting conversation to have not in passing, but in a full, serious conversation. And while I anticipate it going smoothly, heck, the half Ironman that I competed in, I stayed 96% time in range, over 7 hours of endurance athletics. So I'd say that went pretty well. And in the following 2 days, I think I was 100% time in range. So pretty stoked about that. But I want to make sure I'm also not getting overconfident. And while I do teach blood sugar formulas for literally predictive control over blood sugars, I've maintained over 90% time in range for over 5 years straight now, while training for Ironmans and raising a family and having a career and all these things. It is still something to be respected. And it was a helpful reminder for me that type 1 diabetes is a serious thing. No matter how well controlled it is, all it takes is one mistake that is too much and you're gone. So for whoever might need to hear that, it's not meant to scare you. It's meant to be a reminder that this is something to be respected, to take seriously, but we take it seriously so that we can enjoy life, so that we can pursue things like an Ironman. Are you freaking kidding me? I never in my wildest dreams thought I'd ever even consider that. And yet here we are. And so if you need some help, obviously looking at controlling the blood sugars, getting your formula set up, that's what we do. Stick around, subscribe, follow, and feel free to reach out. I'm always reading emails and comments and happy to help if I can. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and check out the next episode. We'll see you guys next week. Keep up the fight.